Hello and welcome to the Worn and Wound podcast. My name is Blake Bettner. Today we are not in studio in Brooklyn. We are, well, we're somewhere in Geneva. Barton.
Where are we?
Is that the name
Rue
of this?
Barton.
I am happy to be joined by Mr. Zach Kazan. Zach Kazan.
Hello.
Not in the computer. Right next
Right
to
here,
me.
yeah.
And Mr. Zach Weiss. Hello, Zach.
Hello. And yeah, we're at Rue Barton 7, which is a little exhibition, and luckily they let us use their lounge.
Yes, thank you, Rue Barton 7. This is what is this? Does this show have a name? This is a little gathering. There are a handful of brands here.
It's called Barton 7.
It's called Barton 7, okay.
But yeah, there's a few brands.
Yeah.
Singer.
So
Singer
we just met with Singer, Schwartz Etienne, Ikepod, or some of the highlights.
Depensel, Genus. These are people I'm looking at. Them. I can see out the window. So.
Oh, he's cheating. Okay, he can see the brands listed on the Blaken, most importantly. So we have seen a lot of watches over the past few days. Maybe too many watches. I don't know if I remember all the watches that we've seen, but we've had some great meetings with some of the brands. We've met some great people. It's been an awesome experience to be here at Watches and Wonders. And before we get into that, Zach Weiss, what are you wearing on your wrist?
I'm on the Sin EZM 2. It's the Sin EZM 2.
It's the Sin EZM 2.
I said that like I had more to say, but I didn't actually. This is
a
great watch. It's very comfortable.
Every
this
time
is
I
a
see
casual
that,
day.
Yes, I absolutely adore that watch. Zach, do we have to ask?
You don't.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the
I almost got the reference memorized from you saying it.
I like the watch. I wear it a lot. SBGH 271.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have it. Okay.
It's nice to have a watch that you like and wear
And this is
a lot.
no,
It's,
completely. Yes. You brought one watch to Switzerland. And,
one watch.
You've just been wearing. No regrets.
Stress-free. Not worrying about losing a watch. Not worrying about. Yeah, I mean, losing a watch is the thing that I would be worrying about. It's yeah.
I just try not to think about that.
For the record, this trip.
Not yet. We still have a day.
Not yet.
Yeah, it was over a full day.
I might have just jinxed myself right there. I am wearing an Urwerk UR100. We met with Urwerk this morning in Geneva in their kind of new space in a very lovely part of Geneva. I don't know what that was called. It was a little square.
That's the old city of Geneva, I think.
All the streets had kind of these curvy, and the buildings kind of followed on.
800-year-old building.
800-year-old buildings.
Wow.
It was beautiful, and the building that Urwerk is in is new-ish to them. I think year and a half, something like that. It's a great juxtaposition of the work that they're doing and their kind of classic inspirations that have driven some of their work over the last 25 years. This is their 25th anniversary. Next year will be their 26th anniversary, I hear.
Yeah.
Another big one.
Every year's an anniversary.
Every year's an anniversary. So we spent quite a while this morning with Urwerk, and we had a lovely time. We're fortunate enough to get a tour of some of their historic pieces that they have there. And when I say historic pieces, I don't mean like 20-year-old Urwerks.
Yeah.
I mean the clocks that have been in Felix's family that his father restored. And that they've
inspired his watchmaking.
They've inspired his watchmaking, and I presume they upkeep them now. They all were working on the show floor.
And these aren't the mantle clocks like your grandparents had. These are these are museum grade.
Yeah,
insane.
They were
and they
stunning.
do interesting things and have interesting complications and are just really. It was a real treat.
One was made for a pope.
One was made for Pope.
One was made for world.
Just to see the time at night. So I believe it had a cavity that you could put a candle in that would shine through the number that was cut out. Very cool stuff. And as you said, this served as an inspiration for a lot of their work over the years, which has evolved quite a bit, I would say.
Yeah. This
was a great experience, though. I don't know what your guys' feelings on Urwerk were before did this change, or what was your impression getting to go hands-on with some of the watches and hearing some of the stories behind with their origins?
I thought it was a great meeting. They were, honestly, it was a highlight of the trip for me, visiting Urwerk. Seeing the watches, learning more about the history of the brand. They showed us some stuff that's not out yet. That's embargoed. That's really, really impressive. It was a really great experience. A huge thank you to Urwerk for the hospitality.
Yes, thank you, Urwerk, for the hospitality.
Yeah.
Awesome lunch.
Yeah.
By the way,
Yeah.
it came in a box unbelievable. Maybe one of the best meals we've eaten.
Yeah,
in Switzerland.
Yeah.
Not a lot of competition.
Not a lot of yes. Zach, what about you?
Urwerk's a brand. I don't know. How do I frame my thoughts on them? They're a brand I've been aware of for a long time, as they've been around for 25 years. So I knew about them like well before Worn and Wound, and they're a brand that I just, particularly I think before I knew anything about the watch industry, and it was just a design student or whatever, like I loved their watches. Like I would have include them in, mood boards and things in grad school and whatever, because they're just so incredibly cool. As I've become more involved with the watch industry and I learned about, just the price points and everything, I see them still as mechanically incredible timepieces, but, the price point, the kind of the exclusiveness of it, that's always part of it. And it just separates them into a different echelon of watch. It's no longer, back then I was like, oh, I'd love to get one of these one day. Now I know it's like, to get a high luxury watch like that, it's a massive achievement or whatever. Yeah. But so, I guess I've had a bit of a sort of a distant relationship from them physically because of that, and I haven't really had many opportunities to see them in person. And now I'm just like smitten, like I was back then with them, and which is not a state I needed to be in personally. Like I don't need to lust after these, but the watches we saw, the talking to Felix, the attitude or lack of attitude, the humbleness of them as a brand,
very approachable.
It's such a contrast to, everyone. I mean, the people watches and wonders have all been wonderful, but these are people. They're at work. Their suits are, their ties are tight. They have to perform at this thing, and it's a very just different sort of feeling in the halls. And this is casual, but you're looking at something epically even more complicated than what we saw. Well, I saw some absolutely insane watches. Watches and wonders. I mean, I should pull that back, but it's there's something completely and utterly different about what they were trying to do. So, really incredible. And the museum stuff, my God,
that's great.
So cool.
Learning about the atomic clocks that they make, I didn't even know.
That atomic clock.
The atomic clock that winds and sets an Urwerk watch precisely every day. It's just incredible.
Yeah, it was very cool, and great people. I'll point out we didn't schedule to stay for lunch or anything. They just invited us. So again, thank you to them for that. It was great to see some of their watches in person. Obviously, watches that we don't encounter all that often. So it's always fun to go hands-on.
How many do they make per year? Like a very very small number.
He said it. I even asked.
It's like less than 1,000, right?
Oh yeah, it was less than 1,000. I'll leave it at that. We can maybe put it in the show notes.
Yeah. With some of the models being like 10, 20, 30 pieces total, like a year. It's a very small volume, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. So that was fabulous. We also, before that though, this morning we started our morning with FP Journe, in the FP Journe. Manufactory. Yeah. It was in a very I don't know about you guys. I walked right by the building and I didn't know what it.
That was like finding out Willy Wonka's chocolate factory sitting in the middle of Geneva and you never knew it was there.
I got out of the cab and I was like, I don't know if you guys were like, but I thought are we in the right place? Like this doesn't seem like where FP Journe is based.
Yeah, I had the same thought, and of course it was lovely once we went in, and they have. Maybe one of the most impressive clocks that I've ever seen or stood in front of.
Some really great historical clocks today, on top of everything else.
Yeah, if you like that kind of stuff, I'm sure we all got all kinds of pictures. We'll have to we'll head over to YouTube and be watching this recording. Well, recording-ish, right? They don't use film anymore. It's like on a digital card, I think. We'll insert some footage of this stuff here and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel, by the way, for our podcast.
If you're listening to us, you can look at us too.
You can look at us.
Well, I don't know why they'd want to do that.
Which is not so great, but I will say...
a bad decision.
Yes, we get comments about that. Yes, so apologies for the way that we look. But we will intersperse a lot of the watches that we're talking about over the... our faces, I guess.
Yeah,
so,
faces made for radio.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, this was a great morning. We had to see some of their new watches. Their automatic watches were totally beautiful. And again, FP Journe, not a brand that we talk a great deal about, and not watches, obviously, that we get to see, touch, feel, handle very often, if ever. So.
When in Geneva.
Yes.
Yeah, you take the opportunity.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
You have to.
So thank you to FP Journe for inviting us to view some of their watches. We'd love to go back and see some more there. They had an Astronomic there that we did not get to see, unfortunately. I like that watch. It's like the wristwatch version of that clock that we saw
Yeah.
when we walked in. Okay, let's get back down to earth slightly here. We just saw some Ikepod watches, and they're quite lovely.
Yes.
I thought I was pretty impressed with them. I guess it's a brand that I haven't really thought about in recent years, but they had a watch over there that, well, they got, is that a diver? Is that a dive watch?
Yeah.
It's got a dive watch. It's got a rotating bezel, but it still kind of maintains that shape, that Ikepod shape that we're familiar with, I guess. And puts a bezel, it's a lovely dial in there. And then what was the other one? It was a chronograph. It was a Le Journe movement.
There's a chronograph using some of the movements that I think the brand had from its previous ownership. So it was taken over by new ownership a few years ago. They launched on Kickstarter at a kind of a reestablishing the brand with enthusiasts at a different price point, and now they're growing from there. Each collection that they do is designed by a different designer, but within the Ikepod format. And so that one, and I can't recall honestly who they worked with on that, but uses these Valjoux or Le Journe movements, which had 4 subdials on them. I believe there's 24-hour on top of active seconds, 12-hour counter, and 30-minute counter. If you remember, from back in the older days of Ikepod when Mark Newsom was working with them, that was the one I always looked at in the store. And this is a new take on it. It's beautiful. You know what I loved about the diver though is that watch, and this is also relevant, but it felt like a cool pair of sneakers, right? It was sporty and streetwear-y in a way though that was really not forced. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was surprising how well they work on theirs. That chronograph too, I think it was titanium. It was very light and easy to wear. It was
a slide rule bezel.
With the slide rule bezel, most importantly, yes.
Calculate those tips.
The most useful complication. Not really a complication, maybe.
What's a complication anymore?
What is a complication? Yeah.
But arguably very useful if you know how to use it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it was. It was cool. It was cool to see, and it was just cool to see some Ikepod watches again that were okay, here's this guy who's really excited about what he's doing and kind of breathing new life into it. Had a pair of Ikepod sneakers, kind of like Wave Runner-esque. They're pretty slick. Patrick liked them. Cool. You wants to get a pair.
Yeah, I like them a lot in person. They having recently got New Balance 992s, which have a sort of similar kind of sole that comes out the back and they're very dad shoey. I was like, no, I mean, I got to that age where I'm into the dad shoes, I guess. Yeah. But I'm not a dad. Thank you.
Well, that's all right. It's a lifestyle.
No, totally.
And then of course Singer, which is still making as impressive of watches as we've seen anywhere. And we did Zach, you and I did a video on one not too long ago. You had a chance to spend some time with one wearing one, and you wrote up your thoughts on it. Be sure to check that out if you haven't yet.
So why I love it? Is that what we call that series?
The why I love it. Yes.
Yeah, we have to do more of those so I remember what it's called.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Zach has a couple of those in the queue. Yeah. We need to hook you up with a Grubel 4C to wear for a couple of weeks.
I'm ready to take delivery of my sample Grubel 4C.
Grubel 4C, we're ready. Yeah. We're ready for a sample. So, so they've got a great concept there, and they continue to do really cool things with it in new ways. They had a constantly running chronograph watch that with a click of a button, I know that just sounds like a normal seconds. But with the click of the button, it would send the timing seconds hand back to this top, and
it's basically like a seconds hand that you just can take control of.
Yeah,
it's funny. Yeah,
it's a regular fourth wheel that you can just send back to the top to start a minute or a timing.
And then they have different versions with different scales on them. So there's a telemeter, a tachometer, and I think just a 60-second pulsometer. Yeah, and so. Yeah, it's funny. You remember the parking meter watches of?
Yes.
Sort of a similar mechanism. That's a constantly running thing, and you just reset it periodically.
Similar to the Zenith retro timer as well.
These are also based on the Agenor movement that the other ones are, but it's a different take on it. Equally as cool as their other one.
Yeah, just totally mind blowing when you turn the watch over. Great on the wrist.
Really surprising. This is my first experience getting to try on a Singer, and I had always kind of looked at them and thought these will be very unwieldy on the wrist, just given the size and shape of the case. But they do wear very comfortably. They're very nice.
Yeah,
that's what I loved about when I had it for a while. I don't know, I wore it on long walks through Prospect Park and stuff like that. it was super comfortable, and it's, it doesn't, once again, I was talking with Marco, the kind of founder, designer, lead creative on the Singer Reimagined watches, and he was saying, I mean, they're around 80 grams, maybe a little less. I mean, that's super light.
Yeah,
really.
That's very light. To put that into context, the full titanium Odysseus Patrick and I, the patent that we saw, that was 104 grams, and that felt exceedingly light on the wrist. And anything under 100, I think you're getting into wow.
And then you have the Ressence Type 8, which was 42 grams.
Possibly light.
That was in disconcertingly light territory almost. That was another brand that we saw that was yesterday, maybe Tuesday. Look, time gets a little blurry.
Several champagnes ago.
Many champagnes ago. I loved those watches, and again, also a brand we don't really get to see or go hands-on with.
You don't run into Ressences on the street very often.
You don't, and wow, what Benoit is doing over there is still fabulous as ever. Some of the iterations that Type 3 with a white dial, and the colors, oh my goodness, I like that.
Type 1 with the white dial too.
Quite a bit, yeah.
In fact, I'll go as far as to say I didn't see a watch I didn't like at the Ressence booth.
Yeah,
I'll take any.
That was, really, and their new one, including the new one, which was quite trick.
We were talking to him, to Benoit, about the Type 8. It was really interesting to hear a little bit about the technological developments since the Type 1 and how they've. Honestly, it got so technical so fast, but he was talking about how the discs now run on ruby bearings that are within it, so there's no longer central pinions, so the tolerances get tighter, and now the space between the discs, the line that you see, is 0.025 millimeters. So whereas before it was, that's thousandths of a millimeter, and then before it was in the hundredths or something, but just insane. They're just insane.
They're really cool. And like yours, in some of the oil-filled. So I mean, some of them it's hard to describe, and even in pictures you don't really get it.
It doesn't look real. It looks like a drawing or a projection or something.
Printed onto the glass.
Yeah. Yet in motion.
In motion. Yeah, we put a little video up on our Instagram, so check that out of that Type 3 moving around.
It's also aggressive look. I mean, obviously it's all black with that almost Kevlar strap or whatever it was on. That was just.
Yeah, that one.
It was just. I mean, like the Urwerks. It's just that is a singular experience.
Yeah, it's a vision that's really been honed and refined and executed really wonderfully. So those are really fun watches. All right, have you guys noticed any reactions to any of the new watches on social or?
No one's reacted to anything on
social.
No
one has reacted.
I'm amazed how quiet
very sedate.
Hey, listeners, look, I'm proud of you. You held it together here. We didn't lose our cool on the new releases. Actually, there might have been a few moments of losing of the cool.
A little bit of salt poured on the wounds.
Wouldn't be Watches and Wonders without some very heated reactions to new releases.
Yes, I was really surprised at how upset.
Why are we also there seems to be this consensus reaction, at least amongst people who feel the need to comment, and then we just don't agree. We're just but we are all but no, I don't know. Yeah. And those reactions, I think, I'm personally referring to the thickness of the Tudor Black Bay Pro.
Okay, the thickness of the Black Bay Pro. I had a chance to go and see it as well. Yeah.
And you got to see it after the saltiness, so you got to, with salt in mind, you got to see it.
I don't pay attention too closely to comments, so if you're calling me out in the comments, I'm sorry if I don't. Just at me.
Maybe you should read the comments.
They say don't at me, bro, but at Blake.
I'll happily reply. Look, I wrote that Then and Now Rolex article, and a couple of you called me out in the comments, and I took the time to reply as best I could with my thoughts. So I'm happy to get into it if you've got something sensible to say. To me, I guess sensible being the operative word there. So the Black Bay Pro, I was really surprised to learn that was a little bit thicker than the Black Bay GMT, which I would not have guessed.
Is it actually thicker than the GMT?
Yeah, because the guy said it, and I was like, what? Well, he said the thickness, and then I asked, well, how thick is the GMT? Surely thicker. It wears it well, and I had zero problems with this watch in terms of the wearability. it's not a svelte watch, but it's wearable.
Yeah.
And
it's so funny because, like, yeah, I agree. If I only saw the numbers on paper, my reaction would be like, that is not the number I want to see next to those other, 39 by 14.6 doesn't feel like it should work. Yet none of us put it on and thought this watch seems thick. We wore it for a few minutes. We didn't wear it for a week or two, but I don't know. I feel like we're sensitive to that. Because we like watches, we
are, yeah.
It's not like.
And I'm happy to be critical of watches. That
yeah,
like
we owe them nothing. I mean, they're like it's this is purely based on our reaction. Like none of us felt that way. I mean, it was super, and beyond that, I was just enamored by the way it looked. I'm really excited by that watch.
It's a good looking watch.
I think I joked because I've already failed at this, but I wasn't going to buy any watches this year. I've already bought several, but I wasn't going to buy any watches this year unless Tudor came out with like a Black Bay 58, I was saying, because I didn't think they'd go, I didn't know about the Pro, with a steel bezel. I like literally said that in the office, knowing that was setting myself up for failure so that I wouldn't actually have to buy it. Now I have to buy it because I said that out loud.
You have to buy it.
I have to buy it.
Yeah,
and I'm excited to. I have some thick watches. I don't know, I don't know, guys.
I bought that Zin Easy M13.1.
Yeah.
That's
the Sin 103 Ti AR and all the Sin 103s that have like, I think open case backs are 17 millimeters thick by 41.
It's getting up there, and that's
really thick. It's been that way for like 10 years. They sell out.
But those watches, like, I notice it, but that is kind of the personality of that watch. Like, I didn't really think about it with the Black Bay Pro. I wasn't like
I would say probably the fact that the Black Bay 58 is so thin is part of kind of like, that is an exceptionally thin, not exceptionally thin. It's a thin watch for the Tudor Rolex family, right? Yep. And it was much thinner than the Black Bay 41s, much thinner than the Pelago. So like, I believe that sort of set up an
expectation that they would just, you just clearly stick any movement you want in there and you're good to go.
Yeah. But I mean, those brands are not known for thin movement. This is what we were saying, like, a lot of brands with thin GMTs are using, if not something in-house that's just engineered to be thin, then like 2893s or Solida's equivalent with that, which is a thin movement. That's what that was always based on. And that's what that is. I don't know. That's what it was engineered for. It was meant to, I'm not trying to take away from it. It's great. It's great that it's thin. But Tudor Rolex don't make movements like that. Neither does like Grand Seiko. There's a lot of complaints about Grand Seiko thickness, but when you wear Grand Seikos, like the thickness rarely seems problematic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my thinking is there's kind of three options here. You've got the accessibly priced in-house movement, the way it is at 14, a little, or you could maybe go with like an off-the-shelf movement that's a little bit thinner and shave some thickness off. Would people be upset that it was an off-the-shelf movement? Or you can go the other route and engineer something new that's thinner and it's twice the price or 3 times the price or something like that. Like, this is pretty accessibly priced-ish. It's $3,600, I think, that it starts.
4 on the bracelet.
And 4 on the bracelet.
It's a 70-hour chronometer with a free-sprung silicone escape.
Yeah, it's a great movement.
It's a great movement. Yeah, so there's going to be a compromise somewhere in there to get like everything that they want.
Do I wish it was thinner though? I mean, sure.
Yes, and I was just going to say, like, I don't know how thin. Like, I don't know how thin. Like, could they have shaved it? I really don't know. That's it is what it is at this point, and I think it's. Whatever one of those routes you choose, people are going to be upset or complaining.
Part of it's also, so the Black Bay 58s are 3-hand, no dates. So you have date on the top, which can add thickness to movements. We've seen that before. And then whatever the GMT module, plus more stacked hands. And then just thick architecture, I don't know. I'm not trying to justify, I'm just trying to actually work out my own thinking of like why it could have ended up that thick. Because the other like I said, this is the first date Black Bay 39 millimeter as well.
It's something that like they're clearly aware of though, because they made that change to the Black Bay chronograph. They took a bit of thickness out of that. I think they moved the dial up a little closer.
They reproportioned it a bit.
Yeah. So it's something that
they do small things with the case and the proportions of the dial to the crystal to kind of like trick you into thinking a watch is thinner than it actually is, and that's why I think it's important to like try these watches on and not just react blindly to to a press release or to a photograph of a watch or a spec sheet, because there's lots of little things a brand can do to kind of like trick your brain and trick your wrist into thinking that a watch is a little bit different than it actually is.
Look, take all the numbers that you see that we put in the articles, the lug to lug, the diameter, the thickness. Don't take that as the whole story. It's often not with these watches. Every watch that we just saw out there, I would say, like, you might not like probably one or two of the numbers associated with those measurements, but you would probably love all of them on your wrist.
Those iPods are probably quite thick because the whole thing is a UFO shape. Yeah. So like from apex to apex is probably quite substantial, but it's only like one infinite point there that's tall, and then it quickly recedes in all dimensions.
The diameter is 46, I think, which is a deal breaker for most people, but of course it has no lugs, so it doesn't.
So you got to think of it more like the lug to lug is 46, which is very pleasant, of course. And that's how it wears. So anyways, point being, like, look, all the numbers that we say, don't take that as like gospel, and don't have like a set of rules that you live hard and fast. Like, don't be afraid that, like, sometimes you just got to try things on, and I think there are a lot of things that brands can do to really bring these things into the wearable space. So that's my spiel on that. Do we even want to touch on Rolex reactions? I don't know. I still don't understand the vitriol.
I don't either.
I kind of like stop even look. It's almost hilariously angsty. Like, look, it's a watch. We all know it's going to be hard to get regardless. So like, it's like, whatever. Like, it doesn't personally concern me because I can't get it. Did I find that watch when I first saw it off-putting? I did, and the reason is because like my brain didn't at first register that the date was also on the. And once that threw me. Like, it looks like it's, people are doing like a face upside down. It just looks backwards somehow, but it's not. Everything works the same way. Yeah. But it's like, to me, what I think interesting about it is that this is a brand that's known to be so conservative as to border on boring, and they did something that is not boring, and you don't have to buy it, but you can appreciate that it's just. I was going to curse, but it's just bloody weird, and that's it. Walk away,
Or just not fancy it. It's totally fine too. I'm not clamoring to buy any of the new releases, and I wasn't, massively compelled by them. I thought they were fine
for making watches you don't want, because
it saves you.
Honestly, I thought they were pretty unoffensive.
Yeah.
And then to see how bent out of shape some people got about this.
It makes me wonder what people want though. Like, what did the people who are reacting negatively to this Rolex GMT, like, what would they have rather seen?
If the credit had been on the right side, they'd been like, oh, just a new bezel? That's so boring. Come on.
There's nothing that they can do to it. I think the only thing that would make people happy is if they just had more supply to meet the demand in the market, which would be great. We would all like that, honestly.
All right, let's get away from that.
Yeah. What else did we see that had you guys excited? We spent a lot of time with Parmigiani Fleurier yesterday, and I think we were all equally very impressed with what we saw there. Yeah. Patrick, it was you. You and I had a brief meeting with them earlier, and then we got to go and actually spend.
We liked them so much we decided
we went back.
We need video, professional video.
We took everybody with us. We took Patrick with us, so keep an eye out for some great video of the Parmigianis coming soon. What did you guys think?
They were just beautiful.
Yeah,
so beautiful. Fit and finish through the roof, and I hadn't seen any of those in person before, and the photos, kind of flat, glossy, photos, didn't win me over. It wasn't like, not that I thought it was unattractive or anything, but it wasn't a watch like I was like seeking out to see or whatever.
Yeah.
And now that I have seen it, it's like it left an impression. That is, they were just so elegant. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that they're a brand that a lot more people are going to be talking about over the next few years, and I'm really excited to see what's in front of them. I had the chance to chat with their new CEO quite extensively last night, and I really like where his head is at, how he thinks about some very intricate details that we collectively kind of nerd out about, certain measurements and fit and wearability, ergonomics, all this kind of stuff. His head's in the right place, so I'm really excited to see where they go over the next few years. And that was kind of like a surprise, like, okay, this is. And I quite a few people have brought them up to me as well. So, murmurs. This is a brand. Look, do you remember like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever? Like none of us were clamoring for like Bulgari stuff or really talking about them in terms of I don't know, like whatever we talk about stuff. But it's like now Bulgari is very much like on the consciousness and like on the scene.
It took me a while to kind of get won over by those myself.
Yeah,
I'm still not 100%, but I appreciate
I'm not either. Like I think
doing,
it's cool stuff, but yeah, I'm not. Yeah, again, I don't feel the need to buy any of this stuff. Like it's really fun to see. It's really cool to see, and what they're doing, I think, is really cool. And I think Parmigiani has like really sorted themselves out over the last year and have created a runway for themselves to really take off with. So I'm excited to see what happens there. Zach, anything else? Anything else that caught your eye you want to talk about?
You were talking to Zach, not Zach? Okay.
I was talking to Zach.
You can talk, Zach.
Yeah, it gets confusing sometimes. So I had a really good meeting with Hublot. Surprising.
Here we go. Get your comments
turn
ready.
the podcast off.
There goes everybody.
I really enjoyed that. Like they have this big purple sapphire. Yes, a big many big bangs. Yes, they have the new the big new novelty. This fair is it's a sapphire. It's a purple sapphire tourbillon, and it's just insane and it's fun. And I think that they.
Are you gonna buy one?
I'm not going to buy one. I don't think I will ever buy a Hublot, but they, I think, are surprisingly approachable watches. Like it's a brand that they kind of like know what they are. Like they don't take. I don't want to say they don't take themselves too seriously. Like there's serious watchmaking happening at the high end at Hublot and serious design.
That was one of the most fun meetings that we had.
It was so much fun. Yeah, they're just like they put a bunch of watches out on the table and just try these on. Let us know what you think. And they told us what they, think about certain, watches, and it was a great meeting, and I love the color and the big purple watch. It's fun. The Murakami watch with the spinning ruby dial. Cool. It's incredible. Mm-hmm. That was a highlight for me.
Zach, what about you?
I've seen a lot of things. I have a watch in mind I want to talk about, but before I get there, Patrick and I, who are currently on the side of the video camera, we ran over to Time to Watches the other day, which was a whole nother fair going on alongside of Watches and Wonders. That shout out to the Time to Watches people. They did a really nice job putting it together. I don't know how many brands were there, but it was a lot of the brands that we used to love to see at Basel that are not incled in the main Watches and Wonders fair. So it was really nice to see. That includes Sin, that includes Young Hands, but then a handful of other things. Got to meet with the people from Louis Urwerk and check out some of their pieces. The terracottas are beautiful. That 39mm watch is like, salmon dials, still love them. Surprise, surprise. Saw some things coming in the future. Cool, very cool. Met Alon Silberstein while wearing a watch designed by Alon Silberstein, which was an unexpected moment there for myself, which was really cool. And I don't usually like to take photos with people, but I was like, I'm getting a photo with Alon Silberstein, so that was rad. I'll move on from Time to Watches. So there was, I met with Jaeger-LeCoultre, and to put their watches into perspective, I believe the entry point to the watches I saw was a steel perpetual calendar.
Okay. Yeah.
Which was in the Polaris line and like wore amazingly well, and I loved the way it looked on my wrist.
Really?
Just oh
Are
my God.
you a fan of the Polaris regularly?
I haven't really seen them in person before. It's been a few years. I don't even know when they came out with that kind of updated sports line. I really hadn't had a chance to see it.
Yeah, because they have like a time and date model of it for.
And a chronograph.
Much cheaper than a perpetual calendar, I'm assuming.
But I feel like the part of what made it work was because it's a 42mm case. Once again, not something that on paper I would run to. The perpetual calendar dial, by having 4 sub-dials and lots of hands and everything, ate up that space really well. Yeah. So it kind of pulled everything in and just made it look really great on the wrist. So that was the base level. It went up from there to, I think, $500,000. For some of these crazy chiming space complications. Like they just went all out.
I like that.
They had watches and they had Wonders. You know what I mean?
They had it all.
Really,
okay.
But there was one that was so cool. So they had all these things that are super precise, and then they wanted to make something that was random, but still astrological. And so they're inspired by shooting stars.
Yes.
And they made, and I don't remember the name, it might have just been called the Shooting Star Complication, frankly, but they made a couple of watches that are definitely sort of more in the ladies line. And they have a complication that randomly fires off a little shooting star across the dial,
the top of the dial,
which kind of comes into view and fades out of view. And the way it works is it has its own hairspring that charges up from the motion of the wearer, also on the main rotor, like it's on the central axis. When it reaches 100%, it fires. But depending on your motion during the day or an hour or whatever, you have no idea. So they said if you're really active, it might go off like 6 times an hour. But you also have to be looking at your watch at that moment to even see it. So it's probably happening most of the time without you even seeing it.
Like
so it's
a
like
real
about
shooting star.
Yeah, like a real shooting star. So
Can
it's all
you
about this,
activate
like,
it manually
catching.
by winding?
You can. So a few turns of the crown will set it off. But other than that, it's just this like purely for the sake of like, I don't know, a moment of ethereal pleasure and astral. You know, it's just poetic and elegant and unnecessary in all the right ways.
Yeah. So this has been a little all over the map. There's some great watches that we've seen.
I have one question for Zach.
Lay it on us.
Can you like give us like a bit of a review of the sandwiches?
Oh yeah. So I've been fascinated with the sandwich scene at Pal Expo. So just a little context and background. The Pal Expo is right by the airport. It's not in the city center. So you're busy at the fair. You can't like leave the show to like go grab lunch or whatever. In the city, it's impossible.
It's very far.
And so it's fully catered, and they bring you all sorts of stuff throughout the day when you're sitting in the press lounge.
Service is great.
Service is great.
Yeah,
lovely people.
Yeah.
And
Keeping us caffeinated.
Day one, I was very excited about these little cheese sandwiches that they bring out. Yeah. They're like yay big. Like they're small.
They're like 3 inches.
Yeah, they're not large. You get sick of these sandwiches really, really quickly.
After your 8th in an afternoon.
Yeah, it's really, really easy to overdo it on the sandwiches. So, it's one of the little quirks of
favorite sandwich, real quick.
I just like the cheese, like the cheese.
I like the chicken one.
The chicken one had like a bit of a curry kind of flavor to it.
A subtle hint of curry underneath, a soupçon of curry. Yeah. Nice touch.
There was one I would occasionally. It was another cheese one, but it had a little bit of tomato, maybe a little pesto on there.
Those are good.
That
Also,
was a nice surprise when you hit that pesto.
the salmon one was good too, which was like I think
I was
a
not brave
rarer
enough to try
sandwich.
that salmon.
It's harder to get the salmon. I think
that's the rare salmon sandwich.
It's like the mad one of
it's
sandwiches.
the mad one of sandwiches.
Yeah.
Patrick, how many espressos did you have this week? Hundreds. Yeah.
Did you have more espressos or more champagnes?
More champagne.
Yeah.
It goes champagne, espresso, water.
Okay. Yeah.
The red goes
Look, this is what has kept us running as is tradition. We are here for you. We've got lots of great coverage on the site and much more planned. Be sure to head over there for all of that. Got some great videos. Patrick, it was lovely having you. He shot awesome videos of all the stuff that we talked about today, maybe even a little more. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for following along with it. Thank you for putting up with our covering some brands that we don't traditionally cover on Worn and Wound. We recognize that, but hey, it's so cool.
It's Watches and Wonders.
It's Watches and Wonders, and these are wonders. So check it all out. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Take care.